The Kings in the North. My fellow Game of Thrones nerds will love that one. The Sacramento Kings go up to Toronto, Canada with a job to do, and they got it done in basically 3 quarters. The beam was lit before the sun went down here in Sacramento. Are the Kings hitting their stride at the perfect time? We'll discuss right here on Locked On Kings.
You are Locked On Kings, your daily Sacramento Kings podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, it is that time. Time for another episode of Locked On Kings.
Hello and welcome into Locked On Kings, your podcast hub for Sacramento Kings coverage all season long. Today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. They help you find qualified candidates that you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnba. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnba to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. My name is Matt George. I have the privilege of being your host here. I'm a Sacramento sports anchor and reporter for ABC 10 News. When I say the Kings went to Canada with a job to do, that job was very clear. That job was very straightforward, and yet it has been a job that Sacramento has struggled to handle consistently this season. You're going against a short-handed, weaker opponent. Get the job done. Get the win. Try to put this game away early, especially on the first night of a back-to-back. You're in a very tight Western Conference playoff race, specifically against the Dallas Mavericks, who have been doing an excellent job recently at winning the games they're supposed to win. That doesn't mean that they've been perfect over the last handful of weeks that they've been going back and forth with the Kings. But when you're looking at the Dallas Mavericks schedule and you're seeing them match up against a team that they should be better than, you're pointing to that game and going, yeah, the Mavs are most likely going to win that game, or the Mavs are supposed to win that game. They have been winning those games. Same thing to some extent with the Phoenix Suns, right? So these teams are winning the games that they're supposed to be winning, and that's keeping them right on your heels in this Western Conference playoff race. Tonight, you had to go and win a game you're supposed to win, and ideally you would do that quickly. And the Kings got the job done. They went onto the road and they destroyed the Raptors, 123-89, the final score. The Kings outscored Toronto 67-38 in the second and third quarters combined. The first quarter, a bit sloppy, right? The Raptors, I think, scored 27 points. They came out of the gate with a good energy, considering how shorthanded they were, right? No Scotty Barnes, no Jakob Poeltl. Like, they're missing a ton of players. No Emmanuel Quickly. They came out of the gate with some good fight. Sacramento offensively looked fine. Defensively, they didn't look great. The physicality wasn't as good as it had been the last couple of games. That changed in the second quarter. Actually, that changed really late in the first quarter. The Kings created some separation towards the end of the first quarter, dominated the second quarter, continued that out the gate of the third quarter. I think they went on like a 16-0 run or something like that from the end of the third quarter end of the second quarter into the start of the third quarter. The Kings got some separation. They kept their foot on the gas, and they put this game away before the fourth quarter began. And here's my favorite. I'm going to throw a lot of numbers at you tonight because the Kings have a lot of really good numbers, not just from this game, but over this last stretch of games. But my favorite number, I should say numbers, that I'm going to share with you tonight are these. De'Aaron Fox, 28 minutes. Domantas Sabonis, 28 minutes. Malik Monk, 20 minutes. Keegan Murray, 31 minutes. Nobody played longer than Keegan Murray in this game. And Harrison Barnes, 19 minutes. Your top 5 players all played relatively low minutes on the first night of a back-to-back. You essentially, no disrespect to the Raptors, you essentially took the fourth quarter off, which is exactly what you want to do, not just on the first night of a back-to-back, not just at the start of the road trip, but at this point in the season, with hopefully a long playoff run in your sights, you want to make sure you're as rested as possible and put your team in as best peak physical condition as possible. If you can get Still get them their time, right? So they're not rusty. They're not taking nights off completely or resting and getting DNPs, right? But they're still getting out there. They're getting their run. They're making their impact, staying in their rhythm, and calling it quits before most of them hit the 30-minute mark. That's almost best case scenario for the Sacramento Kings tonight. Now, I mentioned numbers to throw at you. Mike Brown likes to break down his 82-game regular season into 5-game mini seasons. That's how he kind of assesses the trends, where the Kings are going, what their record is over those 5 games. Is their offense better or is their offense down? Is their defense better or is their defense down? A combination of different things. Mike just takes the season and breaks it off into these little chunks to kind of assess where the Kings are at, because it's hard to be super consistent from game 1 of a season through game 82. Very difficult to do, right? Here is the last 5 games. So this 5-game mini season that the Kings completed, the last 5 games, the Kings are 4-1. Their offense is averaging 116.8 points per game. Their defense is allowing only 99.8 points per game. That is a plus 17-point differential. That is absurd. The Kings' offense is playing at the level that we expect, the level of last year's historic offense that they're known for, and the defense is playing at a level over this 5-game stretch that we really have not seen from this group last season, this season, maybe in almost 20 years. We have not seen the Kings defense perform at the level that they have been performing over these last 5 games. That includes 3 games where the Kings have held their opponents under 100 points. Believe it or not, they lost one of those games to the New York Knicks. But 4 games that the Kings have scored 120 points or more. So you're still getting the offense that we know and love from the Sacramento Kings, and you're getting an unbelievably improved defensive impact on a night-to-night basis. Now, again, it's a 5-game sample size, right? These 5 games aren't enough for me to go, yep, the Kings have figured it out. They're a top-tier defensive team, and their offense is perfect. This is who the Sacramento Kings are now. No, we're not going to go that far. But a 5-game stretch during an 82-game season is not anything to turn your nose up at and not anything to laugh at. Because the Kings, this organization, has struggled to tie or put together 2 or 3 good defensive games, let alone 5 straight. It's new. It's exciting, especially considering an average of 4 or 5, or a minimum of 4, average of 5 or 6 game playoff series that the Kings are likely to face, hopefully more than 1, coming up here in around a month. Or assuming the Sacramento Kings make it, of course. So the Kings, they're ramping up. In addition to all these, let's get into some deeper numbers, right? Shooting numbers. The Kings, over the last 5 games, are shooting 47% from the field as a team. That is excellent. 36% from three-point range, and 80% from the free throw line. The three-point shooting and free throw shooting could still be better. We've seen it be better. And yet the Kings are playing this well during this 5-game stretch. Not to mention 29.6 assists per game. 10 steals per game, the Keon Ellis effect. 4.8 blocks per game, and 20.2 fast break points per game. Take a snapshot of this 5-game mini-series or mini-season that the Kings have played, these last 5 games. Take a snapshot and put it above your bed so you can fall asleep to it at night. Put it in the Kings' locker room, frame it so they see it every single time they enter and leave. Heck, I'm going to hang it up in my office so I can see it when I'm recording a podcast or preparing for a podcast or just doing my day-to-day work, right? This 5-game mini season, if the Sacramento Kings could be this consistently, I'm not talking about doing this a whole season, but if they could consistently be this, and especially if they could be this in a best-of-7 playoff series, it's going to be very, very difficult to beat them. It's going to take a Herculean effort from a Jalen Brunson with a great defensive effort from the New York Knicks to beat the Sacramento Kings one time. This is really, really impressive stuff. You hear a lot of teams talk about you want to start playing your best ball right before the playoffs, right? You want to go into the playoffs at your peak. You don't want to peak at the beginning of the season. You don't want to peak too early, and you certainly don't want to wait until the playoffs to play your best basketball. That's why I'd be a little concerned if I was a Phoenix Suns fan, right? This Suns team, man, they're built for the playoffs. They absolutely are. They have Kevin Durant, they have Bradley Beal, they have Devin Booker. Those three players have done good things together at different times so far this season. They're also a massive injury risk at all times, and they haven't looked fantastic for any consistent portion of the season. They're suddenly just going to turn that on in the playoffs. The Los Angeles Lakers, they're a play-in team. They struggled all season long. I know they have LeBron. I know they have Anthony Davis. That certainly counts for something in the postseason, but that's just going to suddenly appear and show up in the playoffs. Same thing for the Golden State Warriors. Maybe you get a playoff series. 2, a Western Conference or NBA championship run, forget about it, right? You want to be hitting your stride going into the playoffs. The Sacramento Kings might be doing that. They might be hitting their stride, getting hot at the right time. And it's not just getting hot on the offensive end and returning to what they are known for and what their identity is on offense like they've been doing over these past 5 games. It's defensively establishing this expectation of physical, hard-fought defense that doesn't have a massive negative impact on your offense and preparing for that and being ready for that going into the postseason. Think back to the postseason last year against the Golden State Warriors, right? The Kings they had a good stretch of games towards the end of the season, ended the season with a handful of losses. Of course, they knew they were a 3rd seed by that point, so they shut things down. That being said, we weren't sure, and the Kings weren't sure, are they going to be able to put up with the physicality of the postseason? Is their offense going to translate to the postseason? That 7-game playoff series we got against the Golden State Warriors was like wow, look at the Kings. Look what they can do on the defensive end. Oh no, look what kind of impact it's having on the offense. Can they find a balance? We had no idea. The Kings had no idea how they were going to play in the postseason because they hadn't been there before. The Kings know what it takes now. They know what their shortcomings were, and they know how good a defense they played in the postseason as well that they're trying to replicate and even build upon. We're starting to see them establish those habits, establish those tendencies with a handful of weeks left in the regular season so that when they get to the postseason, in whatever capacity, if they're a 6th seed and they're taking on the 3rd seed, so be it. They don't have home court advantage. Who cares? They're ready to go. And someone honestly would call that an advantage for the Sacramento Kings, considering for some reason they've been better on the road than they've been at home. But the Kings, the physicality, the defense is the best that we have ever seen from this group. That includes the playoffs because they've consistently been playing stellar defense regardless of the opponent. And the offense is steadily really, really good. It could still be better. It still could reach that Kings elite status that we've seen from time to time. But for the most part, it's been really, really good over this 5-game stretch. Kings are playing some of their best basketball of the season right now. And hopefully that can continue to translate. Now, they're playing that well because of a bunch of different guys. Of course, we're going to talk about Keon Ellis, 7-0 as a starter. Domantas Sabonis made more history tonight. Malik Monk keeps balling. Keegan Murray and Harrison Barnes had sneaky, really, really good games. Oh, yeah, De'Aaron Fox led the Kings in scoring. We have to talk about all of that just now or just around the corner here on Locked On Kings. Today's episode of the Locked On Kings podcast is brought to you by Stitch Fix. You know that instant confidence boost that you get from wearing an outfit that makes you look really, really good? That's what I get when I use Stitch Fix. With Stitch Fix, you get a stylist who understands your style, your size, and your budget. They do all the shopping for you. It's the easiest way to update your wardrobe this season. You can easily upgrade that wardrobe this year with a professional stylist that helps you find new on-trend favorites that will work for you. All you do is give your stylist your size, your style, and your budget preferences. You order boxes, and when you want them, there's no subscription or anything like that. You don't have to get a different box every week or 2 weeks or anything like that. You order a box when you want. They send you clothes. You check them out. You keep the ones you like. You send back the ones that you don't. And the stylists always send you just the right pieces, and the fit is on point. That's a big deal if you're someone like me who's 6'4" and only 160 pounds. Like, the fit is difficult for tall, thin guys like myself. Stitch Fix always nails it. And if you don't love something, again, you can send it back. Shipping and returns and exchanges are always free. Style that makes you feel good as you look. Get started today at stitchfix.com/lockedon. That's stitchfix.com/lockedon. stitchfix.com/lockedon. I got a long list of individual Kings players to praise and give some love for from this game tonight. Let's start with the man who continues to make history. Domantas Sabonis tonight, 13 points on only 4 of 7 shooting. I guess it was one of those nights where Sabonis felt like he didn't need to score or wasn't really hunting to score. The Kings are probably going to need more from him when they get into bigger games than when they get into the playoffs. The good news is Domantas Sabonis has been looking for his shot and has been scoring a lot more recently over the past handful of games. Tonight didn't need to do that because he was doing everything else. 17 rebounds, 10 assists, and 1 block. That is now 51 straight double-doubles, which ties Moses Malone for the second longest streak of all time in the NBA. And he's closing in. Kevin Love, you better be feeling the pressure. Your 53-game streak is running out of room, right? Domantas Sabonis, 2 away from tying it, 1 away from beating it outright. Oh, yeah, and on top of that, he got his league-leading 24th triple-double. On top of that, ready for the history part? Domantas Sabonis is now one of 3 players ever to have 63-plus double-doubles and 23-plus triple-doubles in a regular season. You want to know who those 2 other players are? Wilt Chamberlain and Oscar Robertson. The elite of the elite. The GOATs of the game, the GOATs of the center position. Sabonis is with them. Interesting. You notice I didn't say Nikola Jokic. You notice I didn't say Anthony Davis. You notice I didn't say Karl Anthony Towns. Matt, why bring up those 3 names? Because those were the 3 guys that were all-stars in the Western Conference over Domantas Sabonis in that position, or that play a similar position that were ahead of him. Don't get me started on that. I'm not saying Sabonis deserved to be in there over Nikola Jokic. Denver Nuggets fans, chill out, you keyboard warriors. Don't come at me. You know how I feel about that situation. I'm bringing that up because 3 guys who got that recognition have never done what Domantas Sabonis just did. Never. And again, they were winning MVP awards and being labeled future Hall of Famers, first ballot Hall of Famers, while Sabonis is called overrated and empty calories. Just absolutely absurd. But Domantas Sabonis, we see you here in Sacramento, man. He has been absolutely phenomenal. Speaking of phenomenal, Keon Ellis keeps doing what he does. 7-0 as a starter. Of course, the circumstances aren't exactly what we want. It took Kevin Huerter dislocating his shoulder for Keon Ellis to get the start. No timetable of how long Huerter is going to be out, but he's certainly going to miss this road trip. He's not with the team right now, so hopefully Kevin gets well soon. But in an inadvertent way, we got what we wanted, which is Keon, or at least I got what I wanted, which is Keon Ellis as your, as for now, everyday starting 2 guard. And once again, he's paying dividends. Plus, small injury note, according to G-Man, he said this on the radio broadcast, Sasha Vezenkov might be suiting up and ready to go for the Sacramento Kings tomorrow night against the Washington Wizards. Vezenkov has missed, I think, 16 straight games with the injury that he's been dealing with. So the Kings getting some reinforcements. That's definitely nice to see. Plus, Trey Lyles is hopefully on the mend and on his way back sooner rather than later. But Keon Ellis, once again, steps in and doesn't just help the Kings win basketball games. He does his freaking job, man. 6 points, 4 steals, and 1 block in 25 minutes. And that's kind of misleading because 3 steals in that block came in 18 minutes. He's just, and I don't even have his deflection numbers in front of me. If I was in Toronto, I would have asked Mike Brown, what are his deflection numbers? Keon Ellis is just, I mean, the Kings have an elite guard defender. They do. Like, that's the reality of the situation. Gone are the days where the Kings are like, we need an elite defender on the perimeter. They have other guys that are capable of being that, right? The Kings still have Keegan Murray and De'Aaron Fox who can pick up that and show that elite level of defense. Keegan more does it for wings and bigs, and he's going to be called upon to do that a lot, especially in the playoffs, and has been doing that all season long. De'Aaron Fox is more than capable of being a really, really solid to elite defender at times. But he doesn't have to be when Keon Ellis is playing at this level and is starting next to him, right? And that's going to be a major difference. Imagine if the Kings and the Golden State Warriors, like if Keon Ellis was this version of himself during the playoffs last year, right? Instead of De'Aaron Fox trying to chase Steph Curry around and trying to deal with that, or Kevin Huerter trying to deal with that, put Keon Ellis on Steph Curry wish Keon the best of luck because it's still Steph freaking Curry, and who knows what Keon's going to be able to do. But you can give that assignment to Keon. Keon, this entire series, your job is to make Steph's life as difficult as possible while spreading the floor on offense and knocking down a few threes like he's been doing over this past handful of games. Now, exchange Steph Curry for, I don't know, let's say the Kings play the Nuggets and it's Jamal Murray. Okay, awesome. Like that is going to be Keon Ellis's job. The Kings have an elite guard defender on this roster. And they still have Davion Mitchell coming off the bench that I didn't even mention. Like, one of the reasons why the Kings defense is so much better is, of course, of the uptick in playing time for Keon Ellis, but also Mike Brown and his coaching staff have found a way to get Keon and Davion and his better defenders on the floor consistently and find a way to make them cohesive on the offensive end. The Kings are getting playing time for Keon, getting playing time for Davion, partnered with Fox or Monk or Keegan or Sabonis or whoever it may be. So the offense isn't taking a step back. These guys are seeing the floor so that their defensive impact that they're known for is finally being felt consistently. So credit to Mike Brown and the Kings for figuring out these three guard lineup sets that have allowed for this defensive improvement that we're seeing before our very eyes, which of course Keon Ellis is right at the center of it. And then of course you have Malik Monk, who put on an absolute show the other night in the Kings' overtime win against the Memphis Grizzlies, right? He was incredible then. I don't know if he didn't sleep or if he just stayed active and stayed in the gym from that point to this point, because tonight he wasn't exactly the same level. He was dunking the basketball. My goodness, Malik Monk is just on a mission to throw down ridiculously angry, flashy highlight dunks every single game at this point. But Malik, I mean, he exploded out of the gate, had like 9 points in his first like 5 or 6 minutes of action or something like that. Finished with 17 points, 6 of 12 shooting from the field, 2 assists, 1 steal. And again, he only played 20 minutes to put up those numbers and make that impact. I know I've said this before. I'm sorry to keep saying it, but it's a reality, and it's a conversation that we are going to continue to have, and it's a conversation that's going to become daily. And if it's annoying to you now, brace yourselves, because when we get to the end of this Kings season and the end of the postseason, whatever run the Kings go on, as soon as we hit the offseason, the fear is going to really set in of what happens if the Kings lose Malik Monk. I am going to repeat myself again. I don't know how you can replace him. Like, I don't know what is out there realistically that you can go out and get to replace Malik Monk. I don't know if it exists. He is that important, that essential for this Kings team. And every day we get closer to the end of this season, and every day we get closer to the end of his contract and the end of the guarantee that Malik is going to be wearing a Kings jersey, the more worried and the more concerned that I get. But we have other names on this roster still to share some love for. I'll get to that in just a second. Like I said at the top of the show, today's episode of the Locked On Kings podcast is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn knows that small businesses are wearing so many different hats, right? It's tough for you to handle just running your business and going out and doing the hard job search to find the perfect people to help maximize your business, right? LinkedIn Jobs is like having a scouting department right there for you. They'll do all the hard, busy work for you, get you connected with the people so that you can find the best hire for your business. They're not just another job board. They have more than 1 billion professionals in their network. Hiring is easy when you have that many quality candidates. So easy that 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. So you want to move quickly. Time is money. LinkedIn Jobs helps with that. LinkedIn is constantly finding ways to make the process easier. They even have launched a feature that helps you write job descriptions, making that process even easier and quicker. 2.5 million small businesses use LinkedIn for hiring. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnba. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnba to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. There are a couple names here that I'm about to bring up that their games were really, really solid, and they're going to get lost in the shuffle of the Kings' great team win and Domantas Sabonis' big night and Keon Ellis making his impact and Malik Monk doing his thing. Those two names are Harrison Barnes and Keegan Murray. Harrison Barnes tonight had a unbelievably sneaky, efficient offensive night. 16 points, 6 of 9 from the field, 66% from the field, 3 of 5, 60% from three-point range. He put up 16 points and shot that efficient in just 19 minutes of work. One of your oldest veterans on this team only had to work 19 minutes tonight on the first night of a back-to-back, and it wasn't a night off because he still dropped 16 points for you and shot super efficiently on the offensive side of the ball. That is a really, really good performance from Harrison Barnes. Bottle that up and get that 1 or 2 times during the playoffs, you're going to be unbelievably good, right? Harrison has had his roller coaster ride this season. We've all been through it together, right? I've expressed frustration. I've expressed joy at the way that Harrison has played at different times so far this season. This version of Harrison Barnes is basically the best that you can ask for. Maybe ask for a few more rebounds. He had like a couple of rebounds tonight. Defensively, he was good. Like he was above average. He didn't do anything wrong, and he was just fine. Part of the Kings playing good defense. So, like, this is pretty much as much as you could ask for what you're going to get from Harrison Barnes, right? If you could get this more often than not, especially with what you're getting, partnered with what you got from Keegan Murray and have been getting from Keegan Murray over these past handful of games, that's exactly what you could ask for if you're the Kings. Like I mentioned, Keegan Murray tonight, 10 points on 5 of 12 shooting. His jump shot is struggling, right? He's not shooting as efficiently from the field as you would like for him to see. We've talked about this before. He has not made the offensive leap this season that I think Kings fans were hoping for. He's had good games, amazing moments where he's caught fire, but he hasn't had that consistent offensive growth that the Kings were asking for. Defensively, though, of course, he's become one of the, if not the best, Kings defender. In addition to that, another challenge from Mike Brown to Keegan Murray has been rebounding the basketball. He had 8 rebounds tonight. I'd celebrate that normally because that's what we want to see consistently. But again, we're talking about 5-game mini seasons. Here are the last 5 games for Keegan Murray rebounding the basketball. Over the last 5 games, Keegan Murray is averaging 8.3 rebounds. He has a couple of games in there with double-digit rebounds. So over these last 5 games, Keegan is averaging 13 points and 8 rebounds a game. Would we like that scoring to be higher? Absolutely. You'd love to see that in the 16, 17, 18 points per game range that we think Keegan is capable of being on a nightly basis. And hopefully one day he'll get there. But if you were to tell me that you would get 1 or 2 games of that super efficient Harrison Barnes scoring 16 points on 60% shooting and a 7-game series of 13 and 8 from Keegan, I think the Kings are in great shape considering what Fox and Monk and Sabonis are supposed to do and Keon Ellis is doing on the defensive end. They could be better. That's exciting to me, right? It's not that the Kings are peaking on all cylinders right now and this is the best version of the Kings. It's the best version that we've seen so far, but it can still get better, and it starts with Keegan playing better. It starts with more consistency for Keon in the starting lineup. De'Aaron Fox, I haven't even mentioned him yet. De'Aaron Fox led the Kings in scoring tonight, had 20 points tonight. I'm mentioning him last out of this group of players. De'Aaron Fox, the last guy that I'm mentioning, he's the leading scorer tonight. He's the superstar on this team. But I named 5 other guys who had more impressive or impactful performances that jumped off the page. That makes the Sacramento Kings a dangerous team with a superstar weapon and, of course, a history-making center in Domantas Sabonis. Lots of really, really good play from the Kings tonight. And again, not a ton of minutes for anybody. Keegan Murray played the most minutes with 31 minutes, so they're in great shape for tomorrow night's matchup against the Washington Wizards. There is no reason why tonight's game can't be copied and pasted to the Wizards. Easy for me to say in my comfy little studio back here in Sacramento, right? But the job is the same. Handle your business. Beat a team you're supposed to beat and do as best as you possibly can to give yourself as a fourth quarter off. do as best as you possibly can to not put too much wear and tear on the tires of Fox and Sabonis and the marquee Kings players, because you don't have to beat the Washington Wizards. You don't. They're one of the worst teams in the league for a reason. Kyle Kuzma has missed the last couple of games. I think he's expected to play tomorrow. But Denny Avila and Rashawn Holmes are both questionable. Marvin Bagley is out. Shamit's out. Jones is out. That's Tyus Jones. They have a couple other guys that are out as well. This is a shorthanded, bad team. I don't care that it's on the second night of a back-to-back. You beat the Lakers on the second night of a back-to-back after beating the Milwaukee Bucks. Screw the back-to-back narrative. Go out and beat two weak teams 2 nights in a row like you're more than capable of doing. I expect to see a beam in the Kings sky or the Sacramento sky tomorrow night. Again, easy for me to say, but that's the job. That's the expectation, because the Sharks are still circling. Those Dallas Mavericks, man, I got Nick Inkstead from the Locked On Mavericks podcast who's posting the Kings schedule tonight to Mavs fans and going, ooh, the Kings schedule's a little difficult towards the end of the year. This is a great opportunity for the Mavs to catch the Kings. Forget all that. Go out and handle your business so that when the Mavs inevitably fall behind, when the Kings beat the Mavericks twice coming up here in Sacramento next week, it can maybe put them to bed. I'm just trying to speak it into existence, people. I'm not trying to jinx it. I'm trying to speak it into existence. I'm not important enough to jinx it. That's my excuse there. Great win for the Kings, 123-89, the final score again. Now it's time for your thoughts on this game. Send them to me, at MattGeorgeSack on Twitter. Email me, mattgeorgesports@gmail.com. If you want to leave your thoughts in the YouTube comment section down below, if you're watching, feel free to do that. Appreciate your support. Can't wait to have you join me again tomorrow night after hopefully a Kings win over the Washington Wizards. Please, God, Kings, just handle the job again. I want a very similar I want a copied and pasted podcast from last night to tonight, please. That would be very, very nice. I hope to see you there, regardless of what the content is. Until then, my name is Matt George. You've been listening to the Locked On Kings podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.